That's the pass goes Stabler. Looking. He runs. He's at the 15. He's thrown. It is a touchdown Raiders. Touchdown Raiders.
When you have great coaches, then after you have great coaches, you get great players. You have a great organization, and you tell them one thing: just win, baby.
Get fired up. I ain't playing. I'm telling you, get fired up. Stand up. Get out of that chair, moron. It's time for the Degos. That's right, Murph and Sonny from the Dago Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Welcome in to another episode of Raiders Fancast. This is the most fantastic fancast on the block. I am your host, Sonny. With me in my headphones across the country in the Midwest South region of the United States of North America is my co-host who wants to be called the Murph so desperately, but he's always been Josh to me. So I'm going to start making a concerted effort to refer to him as the Murph. Please welcome in the Murph.
Wow, I don't know about the Murph. Murph's fine, though. I like Murph, and especially since I adorned, whatever. That moniker was given to me by our Uncle Mosh, and so and it's a nice, honoring of one of the men that was key in forming my Raider fandom, and that was my Uncle Murph. So, yeah,
that's the problem for me though. Is Murph to me was your Uncle Murph.
I know.
Yeah. Anyway, nobody wants to hear that stuff.
Nobody wants to hear that stuff. But hey, thanks for having me back here in the Dago Dungeon. It's good to be back. Thanks for joining us, Raider Nation. And hey, thanks to you, man. Thanks for coming on. I swear, dude, you've been sick for like a month. So no one wants to hear you about how, because I know we all get sick. But seriously, like props. Like it's hard to do a radio show when you're sick. So thank you for doing this.
I've been sick for a month. It's ridiculous.
You've been sick for a month.
Flu, something else and stuff, Anyway, check us out on the interwebs, RaidersFancast.com, iTunes, Raiders Fancast, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, all those places. We're still getting listened to, Josh Murph, in 19 countries across the land. We're still getting listened to in well over 40 states in the country and stuff. So we appreciate all the attention our podcast is getting, and it's cool to finally have people listening to us after so many years. So we appreciate that. Upcoming today, we have an interview with a very controversial figure, depending on where you stand on the situation in Oakland and stadium issues, with Scott Winter, a.k.a. Carolina Raider. We have an interview with him discussing all of his, basically an informed opinion, because really, unless you're Roger Goodell or Mark Davis, you have an informed opinion about what's going to happen in Vegas.
Or Jerry Jones, apparently.
Or Jerry Jones, yes. So Scott's going to share with us his informed opinion, done a lot of research, and it's a great interview. Hope you guys stick around for that. And then afterwards, we'll talk a little bit about what's going on from a fan's perspective. But we will not be talking about the Combine, and we'll tell you why after the interview. So, without any further ado, please welcome in our interview, or please listen to our interview with Carolina Raider Scott Winter. All right, welcome into the show, a recent friend on Twitter, a guy who's been periscoping about the Las Vegas situation for quite a while now. His name is Scott Winter. He hails from the Smoky Mountains of North Carolina. He spent 30 years living in the Bay Area of California. He's written for Cover32.com, SilverandBlackPride.com, and The Last Word of ProFootball.com. Please welcome in Scott Winter. Scott, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Doing fantastic. Appreciate you joining us. Real quick, Scott, what are the origins of your Raider fandom?
I was born in Oakland. So as my mother says, I was born a Raider. I bleed silver and black because of it. I was born at Alameda County Hospital in Oakland. There, I think it's called Highlands now, or was, anyways. But I just grew up on the Raiders. My actual first memory that I can remember is my dad screaming at the television over the Immaculate Reception, and that is no lie.
Oh.
So it's been a long time.
Hey, a lot of your periscopes are centered around stadium issues. How much research have you done on this topic, and why is maybe your opinion more informed than others? And what differentiates your information from other people who also periscope and talk about Raider issues?
Well, I put a lot of time into this. I've put over 3,000 hours into the entire relocation process from the Los Angeles, now transitioning to Las Vegas. I've done a ton of research on the Oakland situation. I've read the master lease, the master agreement, all 6 supplements. I've also have a unique experience in that I worked for Caesars Entertainment out here. It's called Harris Cherokee Casino and Hotel. And one of the things that I was tasked to do as a poker room supervisor was to present an economic plan of why the World Series of Poker circuit events would work there. And I had to convince the tribe that live gaming was important, because there was a lot of them that did surface level research. That, you know, the slots make more money and whatnot. But I mean, and that tied into dealing with the state of North Carolina. So I have a unique perspective in that I've been a part of these kind of dealings from a business point of view. I'm also I own a business, and I also do business consultation on the side. So when it comes to looking at things from a business point of view, I've got a unique level of experience on this, and the story fascinated me, because when I started out all this, I was just a fan, just like anybody else, but the story just grabbed a hold of me, and it was like taking a class in Business 101, like Big Business 101, and the more I researched it, the more enraptured I became of it, and then I was able to give my perspective on things and how things were going, especially with the LA situation. I knew Carson was going to be a disaster. And after that, I started slowly gaining like real contacts, real inside information. It's pretty amazing, that whole process. But now I'm really wired in to what's going on. I do get inside information from people. I also still have my experience and perspective, and all the time that I put into this, I'm pretty on top of things.
Scott, well, first of all, thank you for joining us on the show. Once again, we have an uncle that lives not far from that Cherokee Casino and likes to spend a couple bucks there now and then. So that was pretty interesting that you brought that casino up and you have an affiliation back to that. But in terms of the Raiders and in terms of all the research and all the investment that you've done with the team, give us just a brief overview of where we are now. For the listener maybe that doesn't follow, Twitter every day, isn't reading the news every day, keeping up. Maybe for the fans that are not in the Vegas markets or the Oakland markets or the places where the news media are paying attention to it on a daily basis. Just kind of give us a brief rundown of where do we stand as of today, being that this team has now been looking for a stadium since 1982.
Well, this position is going to come to a head. If you're just tuning in, I mean, you're about to get the hurricane of this whole of information over the next 21 days. It is going to be story after story after story as everything comes to the NFL owners meeting in Phoenix, which I'll be at on the 25th through the 29th. Next week we have the Stadium Finance Committee meeting. We have on the 9th we have the Stadium Authority meeting in Las Vegas. So everything is pointing right now at Las Vegas. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but everything is really moving that way. The momentum is really shifting very strongly to Las Vegas. Now, if it doesn't happen this month and it doesn't happen in May, we are back to square one, in my opinion. It's just, that would be a disaster for the fandom. It'd be a disaster for the Raiders. We would be we'd be really at each other's throat.
If the Raiders do move, Scott, can you assign blame anywhere? Like, does this fall more on the city for Libby's hard stance and no public funding, or does this fall on the Raiders and Mark for kind of just giving up on working with the city? If the Raiders do move, who should fans direct their anger at more, if that's even a thing?
Well, Mark inherited a very poor situation. Granted, he had a fantastic brand and a storied franchise, but it was very broke. His father, Al, God rest his soul, he had to sell 20% of the team just to make sure that Mark had the liquidity to run the team when he passed. And so Mark, you can blame the Raiders organization for not having the money to come to the table with, because they really didn't have. They had a poor team. They had very little in financial means. I'm not saying that they're broke, like they're millionaires, but billionaires. We're talking. That's what NFL owners are, and he's kind of on the short end of the stick when it comes to that. So you can put blame on Mark for the circumstance and the Raiders and the deals that they made since '95 when they came back to Oakland, because it was a very poorly structured deal, which left the Raiders very, very low on finances when Mark took over. Now, as far as the mayor in Oakland, I don't think that she's helped the cause any. I think that she's actually hindered the cause. She removed the land option that Mayor Jean Quan had out there, and by doing so, she basically crippled any chance of an agreement by not offering up the total land. Now, every chance that she's had to make this right, to make it a viable plan for the Raiders, she has basically stepped on. She won't offer any public funding, and that's in light of the fact that the Raiders have been paying back their portion of the debt on the stadium and on the training facility since 1995. I mean, half of their concession revenue goes to paying that back. Half of their parking revenue goes to pay that back. And then if they breach their cap, which is 1.15 million on concession revenue, 70% of that then goes to pay for their debt. So, I mean, the Raiders, per Amy Trask, has paid hundreds, that's with an S, hundreds of millions of dollars since they've been back in Oakland towards the debt and towards their lease agreement as far as fees and whatnot. So when the NFL shows up on your doorstep and says, we have a plan for you to keep the Raiders here in Oakland, it requires you leasing us the land or selling us the land, coughing up just a little bit of public money. You're going to get that money back because the Raiders have honored that. They've been paying their money back. And then you decide, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go with Fortress. I mean, there was an opportunity in September. I mean, really a good opportunity when Edgar Perry and Mission Bay Development walked from the deal and Lott was sitting there holding the bag with no money. The NFL stepped in and said, hey, this is what we can do. Instead, Mayor Libby Schaaf decided to go with Fortress and double down on that. And now they reportedly have a one-year exclusive negotiating agreement. The NFL can't even directly negotiate with the city or county. They have to have Fortress at the table. Otherwise, they'll be in breach of contract. The city would be.
Scott, I have a long question, and if you ever listen to our show, you know that I'm pretty long-winded, so I apologize on the front end for that. The gist of the question will be this, though. Will the Raiders move if they don't secure the full $1.9 million to go to Vegas? And the reason I ask that question is that there's been a few sources, a few things that we've seen in the news. The most obvious is President Mark Bedane, where he says that, Mark is promised Governor Sandoval of Nevada that he will move the team to Las Vegas and he's going to exhaust every option possible to get the team there. Now, the $1.9 billion that has been thrown around is a comprehensive figure. It includes, the purchase of the site. It includes the training facilities. It's everything. Well, we know in recent history, when you look at the NFL, that stadiums have been built for much less. Most recently, the one in Minneapolis, and upcoming the one in Atlanta, where you're talking about $1.1 billion, which the Raiders have already secured with the public funding plus Mark's money. They already have enough enough money to build a facility like that. So my question then again is, will the Raiders, if they don't secure additional financing with now Adelson out and Goldman Sachs out, if they don't have a third party to come in, will they still go anyways?
That is up to the stadium authority. The stadium authority has the final say on whether the Raiders have a proper financial package. For them to come in with $500 million and using the $750 million that the state is offering, I don't believe that would fly with the stadium authority, because they can say that's not enough, and they have that authority to do so as per the bill SB 1 2016. So I would think that he has to have something. He has to have a line of credit, a partner, you name it, more money, bringing more money to the table. Some way, somehow, he's got to get up to about, in my opinion, I would say he has to get up to about 1.6, 1.7 billion to say, and plus cost overruns, that he has that covered. Because the stadium authority doesn't want to be there, have him take up this money, and then it stops 3/4 of the way. That's they have to protect the taxpayer, and I believe that they're going to take that job very seriously.
Scott,
I'm sorry, Sonny. Real quick, do you think that money potentially could come from other NFL sources? I saw something this morning about Jerry Jones is looking for potential investors in it. Do you think that the NFL or at least the ownerships or members of the ownership group could actually facilitate the Raiders securing those additional funds?
It would not surprise me at all. If you've looked at the news since the last Stadium Finance Committee, which was January 11th, it has been nothing but positive from the NFL side. I mean, your Vikings owner comes out and says, I think Vegas is doable. Bruce Allen comes out and says it's nothing but positive things. Arthur Blank, who was very skeptical, 6 months ago, is now saying, oh, this is going to work, and whatnot. Of course, Jerry Jones has made no secret about his enthusiasm for the project, his enthusiasm for helping Mark. He's offered to help Mark throughout the entire process, multiple occasions. He says, all we want to do is help Mark Davis on this, and we want to help the Raiders secure this. I think that Jerry Jones is sincere. I'm not saying he doesn't have an alternate motive, but you have to remember
he wants to keep
Jerry
him out
Jones
of Texas.
is the only owner. Well, that's number one, but that's not. I don't believe that's the only thing. I mean, Jerry Jones this is the interesting thing about Jerry Jones. He doesn't really like the revenue split. He doesn't like it equal. He thinks that the bigger teams who put in more money into the pot should be able to pull more money out. And I think he's building a coalition of owners for that. He supported Stan Kroenke in his mega stadium. Now he's supporting Mark Davis for his mega stadium. And he wants every owner he wants the tide to rise so that all boats rise with it. And, but then again, at the same time, he was the only owner that showed up at Al Davis's funeral. So there is a special place in his heart for Al Davis and his son and the Raiders. So I'm doing an article on that. That'll be my next article is what does Jerry Jones get out of this? So tune in for that.
Scott, you've mentioned the legend pre-1990s Al Davis and Mark Davis. And there's a lot of mixed opinions about Mark. He doesn't do himself any favors with the haircut and the phone and the van and where he eats and all that kind of jazz. But, most people who are rich and come from privileged families have some weird, quirky tendencies about them. So I don't really fault him too much for that. How much of a mess did he inherit from his dad in regards to financial issues? We know about the on-field stuff, and Mackenzie's done a great job. And Mark's done a great job, too, in even hiring Mackenzie and taking his hands off of it. And that's never happened with Al. It was always Al's hands on everything. So how much of a financial nightmare did Davis inherit with the Raiders? And how much time do we give him to fix it before we start calling him to the woodshed? I said in a past episode, I'm starting to go to the dark side with Mark. I'm starting to kind of question him. I'm not fully there yet. But I'm just curious on your thoughts about that. How much time and leeway do we give Mark, and what are your thoughts about Mark overall as an owner?
All right, let's step back and look at this from an academic point of view. I mean, we're both diehard Raider fans, so it's hard for us to do this, but let's step back and let's take a storied company. Let's say IBM, for example. You've heard of IBM, and IBM doesn't make PCs hardly anymore, and they've went business, and you don't hear them very much anymore. They're not a big company, but they're a storied franchise. They had, they were the big blue. And imagine if Mark Davis had taken over that, and in 5 years, number one, he's tripled the value of the company. You're looking at this from Wall Street point of view. He's tripled the value of the company. He's not only has he taken a downtrodden brand with a storied franchise. Now they're in the playoffs. So all of a sudden, IBM, let's just say, has a new line of PCs and tablets, and they're the buzz. Everybody is buzzing about the Raiders on the field. And then you take a look at the decisions he's making. The profitability of the team is going up, even though he's not making hardly any more money in the Oakland Coliseum itself. But the brand is there's more jerseys being sold. He's making more money. He's got the Raider image. If you looked at that from just a totally academic point of view, from the Wall Street, this guy would be the hottest name on Wall Street right now. Even though some fans, if you've watched Game of Thrones, think he's the kind of guy that's like, smash the Beatles, smash it, smash it. He's not exactly all together there. So, I mean, one thing I noticed about Mark Davis, and the haircut aside, he knows how to hire people. Yeah. If you look at this from he knows how to hire people. He hired Reggie, and then had patience with him. During the Los Angeles issue, I mean, don't get me wrong, he was a third horse in a 3-horse race, but he hired Carmen Policy, and Policy knows his stuff. He then hired Bob Iger. I mean, that was gonna run the stadium. I mean, you hire the CEO of Disney and say, well, you don't believe in my business acumen. What about his? I mean, that's pretty strong when it comes to that. Plus, when he took over the Raiders, he paid back all the NFL owners something like $56 million that was owed to him that Al Davis said he would never pay.
Wow.
And and not only that, he's earned, let's see, over the last 3 years, the revenue of the Raiders, the operating income is somewhere averaged around $42 million. Plus, when Reggie took over, there was about $120 million in dead cap. Now that was money that was already paid to players. So what they did was they cut those players, and we had $120 million in dead cap. Well, we still get the revenue share from that. So he basically pulled an extra $120 million out of the cap and into his wallet. So from a financial point of view, he's really turned the team around and really just grabbed money everywhere he could from it. And only this year is he raising prices. So to me, wow. And then not only that, but when Reggie took over the scouting department, I mean, from what I heard, everything was done in smoke signals and Western Union. There were no computers. It was just, I mean, I could just see the guy there with the hat on and the glasses running the accounting machine with paper going everywhere.
Yeah, the green bill visor, Yeah.
Exactly. So I mean, they had to build this from the ground up. Now, another all-star hire, and a lot of people don't notice this, but he got this guy Christian Howard. He stole him from the Clippers. Christian Howard rebuilt their entire corporate sponsorship program down there. And at the peak of it, he was pulling in $23 million a year extra from corporate sponsorships to the Clippers. Come on now. And now he's going to be working with the Raiders. They hired him in November. So he's going to rebuild from the ground up the corporate sponsorship program. And again, the guy has like something like 17, 18 years of experience doing this. It's like, again, and then his other marketing lady, he hired her in 2015. And I apologize, I don't have her name. She's an all-star too. She worked with Apple. She worked with Intel, in marketing and product placement. So it's, that's the two leaders of his marketing or corporate team. Think about that. That's pretty strong. So going forward, Now he's going to make mistakes. Everybody's human. Everybody's going to, they're going to pick on the haircut. They're going to pick on the way he talks. I think he's a little bit of an introvert, and I don't mean that not putting him down for that. My son is. He just doesn't say a lot. When he does say things, sometimes it comes off goofy. But when it comes to the decisions that he's made, looking at it from a financial point of view, he's done what he can. So there.
You made so many good points there, and there's so much good content there and everything that you stated. I made a couple of notes, wanted to follow up with you on a couple of things. Is that, number one, I think that it's key that I don't think he gets credited enough for, and we've talked about the hiring of McKenzie and how key that was to the on-field success. But I think that is something that he got from his dad. The difference to me is that his dad was willing to burn Rome to the ground. Like you said, all the bridges that he burnt with the NFL, and because of the, whether he was or wasn't done wrong, perception is everything. But for Al back in the day, it was him versus the world, which is what led to the Raiders versus the world. But where Mark seems to have that different tact, a different approach to where he is kind of mending a lot of those fences. And again, when you look at the hires of Al Davis, whether it be Madden or Amy Trask or Tom Flores or Art Shell, he made these historic hirings, and I think that you're right that Mark has taken that part of what his dad does, and he has done that well. And I think that as fans, we should have a little more confidence in that and celebrate that a little bit better, because what it has led to is another thing that you mentioned, is that the Raiders are kind of an it team right now, whether it's Mike Florio at the Combine talking about how it's a destination, franchise, or, you see Adrian Peterson talking about and things getting floated out there, like people wanting to come now to this team where 2-3 years ago you couldn't touch free agents and people we were the laughing stock of football, right? Also, when this week Donald Penn was on Total Access on the NFL show talking about the Raiders and so this, I'm getting into the third part of what you said to me, was now with that success on the field and with all that goodwill that's going on, it seems to me that the players and the organization itself, they have Mark's back. And I wrote down one of the quotes that Donald said from that show. He said that we have our owner's back and that he will do whatever is best for the team and that we believe in him. And to me, I'm like, as a fan, we can all get fired up and be, fans of one city or another. But at the end of the day, is Mark is he truly doing what's best for the team? Because everyone around the building and in the building, they seem to believe that it is. Is that what you feel or what you see as well?
That's what I see. You have to understand. Take a look at Donald Penn. Donald Penn is a stay in Oakland guy. It's from his own thing saying, 6 months ago, I wish we'd stay in Oakland. If they didn't go to L.A. Obviously Donald Penn's from L.A., but he'd prefer to stay in Oakland. The fan base in Oakland is just off the hinge. I think they're the best fans in the world. I personally do. That's my personal opinion. I'd love for the Raiders to work out a way to stay. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to. They're with the E&A in place, it makes it very difficult to put a stadium up there. Let's say you wanted to go somewhere. Let's say you want to go to Dublin or Pleasanton, over by Livermore. You want to build over there. Now you've got $500 million in here. If you're going to build a small football stadium, a small footprint, you're looking at $1.3 billion because of the difference in prevailing wage in California is and everywhere else is huge. It's drastic. We're talking $90 an hour just to pay somebody to do something. And you're talking, 17,000 hours worth of work to build a stadium. It's also, there's competition there. There's, you've got Levi Stadium. It's got the big boy stadium, 68,000 seats. It can expand up to 75, 80,000. They're getting World Cup soccer. They're getting a Super Bowl. A small footprint stadium wouldn't do that. Corporate sponsorship leans heavily towards the West Bay. If you look at your Fortune 500 companies, they're heavily weighted on the western side of the peninsula, all the way down into San Jose, and then you start coming up the East Bay, and there's a sprinkle here, sprinkle there. You might have the Ubers moving in, and you've got Clorox. It's been there a long time, but there's not much else. It's just a whole different dynamic. And a stadium is a tool for you to extract, for a football team to extract revenue, it's that tool. You have brand, on the field performance, and your stadium. Those are your three things that you build revenue on. They're treading water with the Oakland Coliseum. It's not a good place for high-end money. I mean, he's not been able to sell out his suites. Yeah, they might have 20,000 people waiting on the list. We'll see what those new numbers are adjusted now that the season ticket deadline is over. But he has 175 suites there, and it's hard to fill even half of those. That's why the new stadium that they're talking about only has 75 suites. So up there, it's so tough. And then you take a look at Las Vegas. You've got a city that's wanting to put up $750 million. Plus, there's no state income tax, no corporate tax. State income tax the players love because they're paying upwards of 13.3% just to the state of California to play in Oakland. So it's, when you start talking about people's wallet and you take a look at, free agents, they want to maximize their value. Well, yeah, players want to maximize their value, and they're going to get to keep 13% more of their paycheck, and they're making $1 million. That's $130,000. I mean, that's not something to blink at for every million. So they've got us back. The people like Gannon have got us back, and he's a pro Oakland guy. It's all about, they see that Mark's doing the best he can with the situation that he has, and he's making friends with the other NFL owners, making deals, and they support that. They support him 100%. Plus, what does he do? He renews Reggie. When everybody was like, I don't know if we should renew Reggie yet. And then bang, 12-4 season. Oh, Reggie is all of a sudden executive of the year. But he renewed him the year before. Now we're renewing Jack Del Rio, and people are like, well, I don't know, man. We had 2 years left on that contract. It was a good deal. Blah, 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 blah. No, he renews him now. He's going to keep him there. He made good on his word to Jack Del Rio, who was kind of on a prove-it deal for a head coach. And now he's getting paid what he should get paid for a 12-4 team. So there you go.
Scott, you've definitely enlightened me on a lot of issues.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, wealth of information. Appreciate you coming on. Before we let you go, where can people find you on the internet? Where can they find some upcoming articles? How can they contact you? Feel free to go ahead and kind of plug yourself here.
Sure. You can follow me at Carolina_Raider, the state _N Raider. You can find my work at Last Word on Sports or Last Word on Pro Football. They have a number of names, but it's basically the Last Word on Sports. You can find my posts and whatnot. I still regularly visit and post at silverandblackpride.com. Levi Damien runs a fantastic website there. It's part of the box,
I agree.
SB Nation box. I love it there. It's a great forum for Raider fans. And then Cover 32, I've done an article there. I'm hoping they'll ask me back to do some more. We'll see in the future, but it's a good website to see, just a lot of different things Raiders. I mean, I've been so deep into this relocation stuff, I can't even watch tape. I can't even watch. I don't even know some of these dang draft players, so I've got to lean on some of my people. I want a special thanks to Joe Arrigo, who's really helped me out. Vinny Bonsignor and some other writers, who Jason Cole. I've been able to reach out to them and talk to them about different things, and that has been fantastic too. So I got a wealth of information drawn, and people like you. Thank you for having me on the show. I really appreciate it.
Appreciate you having you on, Scott. We'll have to do it again, especially after basically the next month is going to be, like you said, it's coming down to a head here. So we'll have you back on. Check them out at Carolina Raider on Twitter, Cover 32, Silver and Black Pride, and lastwordonprofootball.com. Scott, appreciate you. Have a good day.
You too.
All right, Murph. I could have talked to that guy for well over an hour.
Oh my
easily.
gosh. Incredibly knowledgeable.
We're high talkers. He's a high talker. Probably not good for a podcast to have three high talkers do their thing. What was one takeaway you took from our conversation with Scott?
Well, so many things, and yeah, it's always good to meet new friends of the show, and I think Scott is one of those, and so good to talk to him, and really appreciative of his time. The biggest thing to me that came out was, we like to celebrate positivity. Aside from that last show that we did where you and I just bitched and whined for an hour,
Yes.
aside from that, we like to celebrate. Sorry about that, folks. We'll try to do that again. Sometimes it's got to come out though, right? So, but aside from that, we like to focus on positivity. We like to radiate the good things that are out there. We don't want to just dive and dwell into the negative because that's so easy. We want to focus on the solutions and focus on the positive. And that to me is what Scott did. And one of the things that was key was that, a lot of people are really down on Mark Davis, and I think with a lot of fair criticism of him, but how he highlighted what Mark's successes to this point have been. And it's kind of like when you have a political figure that isn't really, and I'm not speaking about anyone in particular that's recent. I'm just talking about in generalities here. So, okay. So, but I'm talking about when you have somebody that's like, they're not really polished, like maybe they're not the best speaker in the world, but you agree with their policies and their decisions and their cabinets and all the platforms and all the things that they've done have done a good job, but they're just not really well presented. I think that's what Mark is. And so I think it's cool, and I think it's important for people, to like Scott to come on our show and to address those things and point those things out. Look, he did do a good job in hiring. He did do a good job in getting the Raiders financially sound. That, like what he brought up about the dead cap money. We all knew from a competitive standpoint the reason that they cut all that dead money to us in order to get the books clean and then go after, and build to what we are now, or with free agents like Bruce Irvin and Kalichi Osemele and all those kind of guys. But the actual financial side of it, where he actually saved money and actually pocketed money for the Raiders by doing, I never thought about that. That's great. That's excellent stuff. So yeah. How about you? What was your takeaway?
I like that. Like us, he's pro Oakland. He wants the Raiders to stay in Oakland. I don't think that's any shocking news to any of our listeners. We want the Raiders to stay in Oakland, but it's okay to talk about what if they do move to Vegas. It's okay to have an informed opinion about what's going to happen if they don't go to or don't stay in Oakland. And I think much like politics, since you brought that up, I think sometimes when you're so invested in your side, hearing any kind of information about the other side, you automatically discard it, even if it's truth. And so I like the fact that Scott, much like us, he was born in Oakland, right? We were born in San Jose, so he's even more street cred than we have in Oakland. I like the fact that he's from there originally, but still has an informed opinion about what's going to go on with Vegas and with Oakland and all that jazz. And it sounded pretty objective, right? I didn't think that he was very. He came in, obviously he cares about the Raiders.
He doesn't have an agenda.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he had an agenda. It seemed like he was very objective in his points and in his reasoning to back up his stuff. And truth be told, he backed up his stuff. Not at one point did he slander anyone. He didn't slander anybody in Vegas. He didn't slander anybody in Oakland. He presented everything very factual, and I really appreciated it. I had a bunch of follow-up questions I could have asked him, but the show would have been 3 hours and stuff, So we'll definitely have him back in the future. And please go check out his work at Cover 32, Silver and Black Pride, and what was the last word on ProFootball.com. And then follow him on Twitter at Carolina Raider. Really, really kind of presented himself to be really humble, really approachable. And we talked to him before and after for a bit, and just a super nice guy. So really appreciate Scott coming on the show.
Yeah, we look forward to having him back again. And we had discussed with Scott off air about coming on and having his next time on, or at least sometime in the future, doing more the debate format that we had discussed a couple of weeks ago. And so, for those guys out there, and I think there's, a handful of them, and you guys know who you are. If you're listening, you want to come on and have just a civil discussion about the counters of opinions on this stuff, we'll facilitate that. And it's not, Sonny and I aren't the kind of guys that are going to play in the mud or going to set anybody up to look silly by any means. And so, and we know Scott is willing to come on and do it. And so, if, to those other guys, come on, Come on, let's all talk about it. We're all at the end of the day, we're all hardcore Raider fans, and it's okay. You're amongst friends here. Come on in. Come on and join us here on the Fancast.
And it's okay to have a different opinion. We're not going to hate you.
Absolutely.
All right.
Unless you like Mark's haircut. That one is undebatable.
Okay, Lloyd, calm down.
We'll put another shrimp on the barbie.
I feel like for the first 20 shows, whatever, all we talked about was the Raiders on the field. Now all we talk about is Vegas because that's everything in the offseason. We saved it up for that. What you're not going to get here, Josh, is expert analysis on the combine or anything going on. We're just fans. I got a wife and kids. We got stuff going on, so we're just going to give you the perspective of fans. Just like you guys are, just like the majority of our listeners and stuff like that. So don't expect any expert opinions from us. I will say though, this guy John Ross just ran a 4.2240 at the combine, just broke Chris Johnson's record at the combine. Praise the Lord, Al Davis is currently not the owner of the Raiders because he would sell Reggie McKenzie and Coach Del Rio and every future draft pick to get John Ross in the draft.
Hey, Al just woke up.
There's already a meme, dude. There's already a GIF on Twitter of the Undertaker rising up out of the coffin of Al Davis coming out of the grave because John Ross just ran a 4.22.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, my goodness. Yes, that is an Al Davis type guy.
So let me ask you a question. Does it make you glad that we're not going to go sell the bank? You know, because, Davis, he would have done everything he possibly could to get this guy, right? Well, now, the thing about him, though, is he didn't do good against Alabama. He got shut down against Alabama. He torched the Pac-12 all year long. But against Alabama, he got kind of shut down and stuff, Do you think Al would have jumped at this guy or what?
Well, probably. I mean, yeah, it certainly would have been in scope. I don't know if he would have, put a number 1 draft pick on him or not. But I mean, it's funny if you look at and I don't have it in front of me. If you could pull it up while I'm talking and want to correct me on it, I'd welcome it. But if you look at like the top players that have ever ran in the 40 at the combine, it's like 4 of them are Raiders or something. I know 2 off the top of my head. One was Philip Buchanan and one was DeMarcus Van Dyke, who I think DeMarcus Van Dyke had, other than Chris Johnson, had the record, at least for those corners. But anyways, so would Al have made a play for the guy? He would have. He would have. I don't know if he'd drive number 1, but he did Haley Bay.
You got Chris Johnson, 4.24. Dree Archer, 4.26, but he was after Al.
Right.
Marquise Goodwin, 4.27, died in 2013, so again after Al. Jacoby Ford, we all know Jacoby Ford.
Yep, he's
By the way, tore it up in Madden with him for a couple of years. He was a stud, 4.28. J.J. Nelson, but he was 2015, so again after Al. Marcus Van Dyke.
There he is. There's a Raider.
DVD. Yaman Figueres, Darius Hayward Bay, 4.30.
There's a Raider. That's 3.
Yeah, you're correct.
And before we hadn't even gotten to Buchanan yet. So I mean, and I think he was the 4th. So yes, the old Al, he loved his dang speed, man. And that, but back in the day, that's what before the NFL got as sophisticated defensively as it is now. Then speed killed. Speed absolutely killed, before all the, again, all the complex zone defenses and all the stuff that the NFL does now to shut that stuff down. Back in the day, man, you could beat a guy at the line of scrimmage. You could outrun him to a spot, and old Snake is raining him down on you, or LaMonica or whoever else. So, yeah, absolutely. Pretty cool stuff.
Week,
so let me say this about the combine. Here's what I will break down. Here's the kind of insightful analysis you're going to get here on the Raider Fancast about the NFL Combine. To me, and I work from home a lot, and I was working from home yesterday, and I had it on in the background. It's one of the most soothing sporting events that you can have on. Like, there's like Jim Nance at the Masters, and then there's Mike Mayock and Rich Eisen at the Combine. It's like you can have those things on the background and nap like a champ. Now, I was at work yesterday, so I couldn't nap it out. But there's just something so calming about listening to Mike Mayock tell you about a 300-pound offensive lineman running a 5.4 and all that. And there's just something so cool. Talking about their kick steps and all this different stuff. It's cool stuff. I do like the Combine. To
me, it's a little weird. when you remove the aspect it's about sports and you really break down what it is, you have a bunch of grown men analyzing the physical attributes of young men. It's a little weird, bro. It's a little weird. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
Okay. And now they sell tickets to it. That's the other thing. And, the NFL, man.
It's weird, man. I don't know.
God bless them. They are so good at marketing everything and turning everything into a TV event and a spectator event. And the fact now that they're selling tickets to the bench press. Like, listen, I and you and a lot of people listening to our show are as diehard NFL fans as you can get. But listen, if you're buying a ticket to go watch a 22-year-old college kid bench press so you could cheer him up, like, you may want to rethink some things. I'm just saying.
If you're buying a ticket to go watch Andrew Luck run a 40, you may want to get another sport.
But I would pay to watch him eat like biscuits and gravy because that would just be a mess. Yeah.
And then make bets about the percentage of the gravy and biscuits actually gets in his mouth.
Yeah.
Or gets stuck in his beard.
What's the over/under on 4 ounces of gravy in the beard? Yeah.
I'd make a bet, and I'd watch how fast John Elway can eat a carrot.
One bite from the next room.
Anyway, all right.
Yeah.
Before the show digresses.
How close does Peyton need to be to a corner to look around it?
Yeah.
The over/under is 2 feet.
How much of a projector screen could you get on Elway's 2 front teeth?
All right. My gosh.
This week, Derek Carr stated, "I am a Raider for life." Do you think that affects contract negotiations with him, or is he still getting paid?
No, he's still getting paid. I mean, we talked a little bit about it already last week about Carr and what the expectations are getting him signed up. Look, the guy's not going anywhere. I think that when you look at the integrity of this group of front office folks, and you look at the integrity of the guys like Mack and Carr and the other guys that are up for contracts, when you look at that, I don't think there's any doubt that despite what any public statements are in it, I don't think that's going to impact the deals or anything like that getting done. I can't remember if I mentioned it last show or not, but I heard a term not long ago that was culture eats technology for breakfast. And wait, what was this? Oh, now I'm going to mess it up. Here we go. Now I've been waiting to say this, and then I'm going to mess it up. Oh, and then strategy for lunch. That's what it is. Culture eats technology for breakfast and strategy for lunch. The whole point is that the culture of your organization will completely override anything that you can do from advancements or innovations or anything like that. And to me, that's what the Raiders are right now, is that the Raider culture, the culture of that organization now, is as healthy as it's ever been, and that includes the players and their relationship to the front office. The players love the coaches. The players love the front office. Donald Penn was on Total Access this week and talked about how the locker room has ownership's back. And you've heard guys like him and Carr and everybody else talk about their relationship with Jack and the faith that they have in Jack and what Jack's done with the coaching staff. So, yeah, I don't think this is going to mean a hill of beans when it comes to negotiating these contracts. And thankfully, it's not just Carr. I think that is going to be the theme with this team going forward when it comes to all of the negotiations. Now, when you're talking about a wide open free agent like Latavius Murray, I don't know, because that guy's going to hit the open market, and we know that Reggie is smart, is a good steward of the Oakland Raiders money when it comes to spending in reflection of the salary cap and all that stuff. So I don't know if a guy like Murray on the open market is going to get top dollar or not. If he does, I don't see the Raiders signing him because they're already a couple of deep at running back. Granted, those aren't 3 down type guys in Rashard Washington, but the draft is deep also at running back, so they could get another running back later on. Plus, then there's a bunch of them in free agency, and you can get a guy like. And I know you.
Let's get there real quick. Okay.
All right. Well, hold on. I'm almost done. And I know you've spoken out against not wanting like an Adrian Peterson. But if an Adrian Peterson, if you get a guy like that at a discount and he doesn't have to be a featured back, he could be just part of what the Raiders do and then bring that veteran leadership along with him. That's the kind of thing that, would that outweigh the value of a Latavius Murray? Absolutely. So anyways, a couple things there, the Carr thing and then the wide open Murray thing.
I hope they keep Murray. I like him. I think it was evident against the Kansas City the first time we played KC when we could have beat him. Not having Murray, I think, hindered us. So I like him. I think he's that big back that we need. I hope they don't get Adrian Peterson, and I hope they don't get Jamal Charles. I know it's a little different this time around versus when we went out and got an old washed-up Maurice Jones-Drew. But, both Peterson and Charles had their best season in 2012, and have since, by the standard they set, been in decline, if you will. So
and they've been hurt a lot. Both those guys have been hurt.
With what you said, you could make an argument for it that it might be beneficial to bring him in and have the leadership and all that stuff. But at the same time, I don't want Jamal Charles in the Raiders. I just spent the last freaking 10 years hating the guy. So I don't want him. I don't want him to be on the Raiders. That's, from a fan perspective, no. I don't want that guy on my team. Screw that guy. It was hard enough with Sean Smith, and he sucked. And I still think he was a spy from the Kansas City Chiefs to hurt us. Anyway, but more interestingly, I think, is Christian McCaffrey. Did you know that Jack Del Rio's son and Christian McCaffrey both played on the same high school and were high school teammates?
I did not know that.
Yes, they were. Did you hear the statements Jack Del Rio made about Christian McCaffrey this week?
No, I did not.
I have them ready to go. Would you like to hear them right now?
I would love it if you would share that with myself and the listening audience.
Here we go. Christian McCaffrey is, first of all, an amazing young man. I heard that people question whether he'd be able to go from high school level to the college level, and now the questions will come out, can he go from the college game to the pro game? And I think you're going to see the same thing. This guy is a great football player, and I think he will have an impact in the league. Do you think the Raiders make a run at Christian McCaffrey?
I think that thankfully, the Raiders are in a position to where they can take the best player available, either based on, obviously every team's going to take the best player available based on their exact need, but the Raiders don't have a lot of needs. So if there is somebody on the board that they didn't maybe expect and could address it, then I could see him going after a guy like that. But I think there are bigger needs. Yes. And, when you look at our defensive line play, as solid as we've been in getting a pass rush off the edges, we don't really get a push up the middle, which is surprising because I thought Dan Williams had really, and I know that losing Jackson hurt and stuff like, not Jackson, who am I thinking of? Jelly Ellis. I know that, like having him, and then losing Mar. Yeah. And then he was hurt too. So, so we were down to like Stacy McGee, right? And so, who was a free agent. So there's a lot of, so we have a need at the interior defensive line. We also, as we've talked at length on this show about, we are going to need we're going to need tackles in a big, bad way, because whether that's left tackle after Penn ultimately, declines or moves on to retirement, and we already have a need at right tackle. So can those spots be addressed in free agency? Yes, there are players out there that can help us, especially on the offensive line. There's another tackle, I forget the names, but there's a tackle from Baltimore that's out there. There's a guy from Washington that's out there. There's some players out there to help the Raiders. But if they're not successful in getting their needs addressed in free agency, will they need to go to the draft with that first round pick? Yeah, and is McCaffrey going to be there? In the second round? Probably not. I don't think he gets past this guy, to me, is a freaking Patriot. Like, everything you hear about him, from his skill set to, how coaches how he is going to be successful at the next level based on a coach's ingenuity and his, creativity on offense and all. That's like that. Who do you think of when you hear that? It's freaking Belichick, man. Like, that's what Belichick does. Plus, he's got the corner on 5'9" white guys. He always has, except the fact that McCaffrey's 6 foot tall. But even then, you look at what they have now. You're talking about a duplication of talent, but with Dion Lewis and Edelman and all that. But that's the kind of guy that Belichick will be all over. So, anyway, I don't think he's getting out of the first round. I don't see any way he makes it that far, and I think that it's iffy for the Raiders to draft that player that high. Considering that, yes, running back is a need for them, but I don't think it's as big of a need. Heck, dude, we need linebackers still, and we still need freaking secondary help. Well,
and McCaffrey's a little bit like Washington Richard. He's kind of smaller and shifty. We need that big physical back, don't we?
Yes.
Don't you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think somebody that look at what happened when Carr broke his pinky, okay, and we weren't able to pound it in from inside the 5-yard line when he was lining up in shot. You know what I mean? And so but then prior to that, what did Murray do when we were at the Denver game, sitting in that end zone, when the Raiders were inside the 5-yard line and Murray punches the ball in? You know what I mean? So I'm with you. They need a big back like that. They need somebody. They don't need somebody that can swing out and catch the ball. They don't need Jamal Charles. They need Adrian Peterson. You know what I mean? That's and so whether it ends up being that guy or not, I don't know. But again, if they do sign a Peterson on a discounted deal, well, then they're certainly not going to draft McCaffrey. They don't have any need to. I think the Raiders go in a much different. I think typical Reggie McKenzie, aside from maybe Coop, you're not going to see a big flashy first round pick. You're going to see a linebacker. You're going to see interior defensive linemen. That's the kind of guys that we're gonna get. And then I think too, this is a really important draft for Reggie because, and they all are. I'm not discounting any one over the other, but you could look at like the draft where he picked Hayden and stuff like that. What were the long-term ramifications of that? Not nearly what the long-term ramifications were to last year's draft or the year before that. Well, this year I think it's a big deal because now the nucleus of the team is there. He's drafted and signed through free agency the nucleus of this team. Now we're building depth. And that's where the Raiders lacked, right? That's what got us, was that we don't have a lot of depth on this team. We got excellent players at different positions, but we're just not real deep. And 1 or 2 injuries, and all of a sudden we're not as competitive. 1 or 2 injuries at corner, an injury at safety. All of a sudden, now we're vulnerable. So I think this is the draft where Reggie builds depth for this team. And depth is what wins you championships. Ask the New England Patriots. Depth is what gets you there. This is the draft. He does that. And so I don't think we're going to see any flashy players. And besides, there's really not a lot of flashy players in this draft to begin with. So it's like a perfect time for us to draft those linebackers and draft those corners and really build this team up. Sonny, this may be my fandom talking, but I think we are geared up to have, I think, and I'm not revealing any major insights here, but I think this team is poised to make a run like a for real run at the Super Bowl. I don't. Everything is lined up to say that, and I think that the Carr injury last year put the biggest Oakland-sized chip on their shoulder, and they are gonna go for it. I think that as professional athletes, they're gonna be motivated regardless. But I think these guys are gonna go out there every week feeling like they got shorted last year, and it's perfect. I'm telling you, man,
they did.
Perfect. This is going to be big, and they did. And so Reggie signs a couple of guys, brings in another nice little draft class here. Guys like Joseph and Coop and all these younger guys who got another year under their belt. Dude, I'm telling you, man, I'm fired up, man. This is going to be a great football season.
They're hungry, they're mad, and you make a good point. He is building for depth now, and teams that go deep, teams that go far are deep. Teams that go deep in the playoffs are deep in the locker room, right? And so, all right, McKenzie, let's go. You got the centerpieces. You got your flashy, right? You got your Carr, your Mack, and your Cooper. Let's see how we do. Can we get enough of Bruce Irvin on Twitter?
Oh my gosh, I love that guy. He's one of my favorite free agent signings. I want to say ever, but certainly in the last handful of years, he's been great. He was like one of those guys that just instantly became a Raider when he got here.
Yeah. Instantly, right? He was, he just has that Raider thing about him. He's out there recruiting. He's basically the anti-Marquette King on Twitter, right?
Oh,
Marquette King draws attention to himself.
We still have not had our Marquette King show yet.
I know,
that's coming.
and we've been talking about it for 3 months. It's jumped the shark. Everybody caught on to it. Anyway, I love Irvin. I love his enthusiasm. I love that he's out there. And this is the fun thing about being a sports fan in this day and age is you would never know this 20 years ago, right? You would never know what phone calls are being made behind the scenes. But now because of social media. And Irvin's doing it to hype up the fan base, and obviously, it's fun for them too, I imagine. You get to see these interactions take place. You get to see direct, to a certain degree, conversations between two NFL players and stuff like that. I freaking love that. And I think you make another good point. The Raiders are a destination right now. We don't know where the hell we're going to play, but we know when we play, we're going to be badass. And that's a cool thing. I think that's enticing to a guy like Adrian Peterson and Jamal Charles, who have been excellent, top of the league in their position in the history, in their career, but have never gone to the big dance, never played in the big show. And I think the Raiders, everybody knows the Raiders are kind of primed and poised to make that run, and I think it's a 5-year window. I think we got a good stretch of 5 years to where everybody's still pretty young. We're up and coming, and again, we don't know where the hell we're going to play. But that really doesn't matter, because when we do play, we're going to be tough to handle, and I love that. I think it's awesome.
That point of view brings me to my absolute dream free agent signing this offseason. And I'm going to say the name, and you're going to be like, yeah, but if you really think about it, I think this makes perfect sense. And based on a lot of what you just said, Chris Long, I think, now I'm just a fan like the rest of us, but listen, Chris Long wanted to build his own legacy outside of his dad. The Mount Rushmore of Raiders features Howie Long. There is no doubt. Okay. It's him, it's Timmy Brown, it's Fred Biletnikoff, Kenny Stabler, right? It's maybe Marcus, but there are a handful of guys, Willie Brown, that you could put on the Mount Rushmore of Raiders, and Howie's one of them. So I get why Chris Long never said anything about being a Raider. You never heard that through his entire career. Had him vocalize anything about playing for the Raiders. So he built his own legacy in St. Louis, where he was a very effective player on some pretty good defenses that never had his success as teams, but defensively they were pretty darn good for a handful of years in there with him as being one of the focal points of that defense. Then he goes to New England and he wins a Super Bowl. He's got a ring. He's got as many rings as his old man does now, right?
But he's unhappy over there.
Right. Because if you look at him, they were talking about on Mike and Mike this week or maybe it was Dan Patrick, but how he got programmed. Like he got programmed to be a Patriot. Like, when he would come on to do interviews, he didn't have the same personality that he once did and all that because and so now he's got to go through his deprogramming, right? But my point though is that now you've got this guy that has a legacy of Raider. He's already done his thing twice now, one of them ending in a championship. So he's not chasing any championship, at least short-term championship goals. Now, if he comes to the Raiders, he's got a potential for another one, right? To go back and to win another championship, because this team, as we just mentioned, is built for it. And he brings veteran leadership, which is, again, something we've talked about, that with the departure of Charles Woodson, we lost the leader of our football team. And while Carr and Mack and those guys are growing into being leaders, and Carr certainly the leader of the offense, what better than to bring in another veteran guy who's been there, who knows the Patriot way, the whole thing, now has this incredible base of knowledge and experience in the league and is still effective. Now, granted, we don't need edge pass rushers. We got one of the best in the league, if not the best in the league, and a pretty good, 1A and 1B coming in there with Irvin and maybe Aldon Smith if he returns, whatever. So I know it's not a desperate need for the team, but then you put the cherry on top is that he's Howie Long's kid. Dude, I think that would be an amazing signing. What say you?
Not going to happen.
Okay, next segment.
Well, as soon as you said it, my first thought was, what? When's he going to play? Whose time is he going to take away from playing? I think you make good points. I just don't think there's room for him because maybe on the right side, maybe he'll take over for Jihad Ward or Autry, because those guys aren't really anything special. But if we transition to a 3-4 defense, I mean, that changes a little bit. You make good points. It'd be cool. He's already had his legacy. He's already got a ring, even though I don't think it's weird, with that guy. It seems like he was unhappy he got a ring. It's like, you got a freaking ring. And he's like, I want to go somewhere where I can return to playing how I like to play. So it's very interesting. But, yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Maybe it would be cool for him to wear long, and maybe even cooler if he could wear 75 or something like that. Who knows how that would go. Or is Howie's jersey retired?
No, the Raiders don't retire jerseys.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
You knew that.
Yeah. But, so it'd be cool if he could come on. But I just don't know playing time and how much money he'd want, all that kind of jazz. So yeah, that's my only questions about that.
Well, that's the other thing, too, is he's made his money. So I'm not saying you're going to get a discount on him, but he's not going to be as expensive as what, he could be. We're a player with his caliber and his credentials now at this point. But anyway,
and
I
he's 31.
just thought it was interesting.
But he's going to be 32 by the time he plays next year. He's old, How much?
But he's got a couple years. That's
32.
what I'm saying. Like, so this would be the kind of this would be his last hurrah in the NFL, and what better to do it than in silver and black, and especially like you said, if you were 75, I don't know. It's just a very, very interesting thing to think about. I thought it was just I don't know. We never really. I mean, I know Atkinson played. George Atkinson III played a little bit, and we've seen a handful of other smaller examples, but nothing to this level. Where we'd see this kind of an extension of a Raider legend. So, anyways. And
then would he even want to? Would he even want to?
Well, and that's the thing. Is that and that's the thing is he's so long been. He definitely hasn't ridden on his dad's coattails by any means. Everything he's done has been on his own. So that's what I mean. But if he were to, this would be the time, right? Like, it's not going to get any better for him if he ever decided to want to do that. So, and would the Raiders even want him? So we'll see.
Speaking of Patriot players, LeGarrette Blount he might test free agency. What do you think about him coming to the Raiders?
Yeah, see, there you go. That's that dude's got Raider written all over him, doesn't he? Like, to me, that. Well, because you're an Oregon State fan. Yeah. You don't like Oregon. You don't like them Oregon players. I get why you wouldn't like that, but for the rest of us, man, that's the kind of guy they need. They need somebody inside the 5-yard line to punch the ball in. Like, that's who we need. We need a big power back. And Murray is a little bit of that, but I don't know if Murray, for the price tag he's going to get. Of course, I don't know. Running backs are weird, man. Running backs, they're
not like they used to be. They're not like they used to be, man. They're plug and play.
Well, but now with people like Ezekiel Elliott, we're kind of seeing it come back a little bit. Like, and that's what I was going to say is that have we seen any more transition for roles in offenses or any roles with offensive or defensively? Have we seen those roles change any more than we have at the running back position in the last 5 years or even 10 years? I mean, it seems like 1 year, it's all about zone blocking and it doesn't matter who you have back there. Look at Mike Shanahan's offenses. It didn't matter if it was Orlandis, Gary, or Clinton Portis. They all ran for 200 yards against the Raiders. You know what I mean? It didn't matter who they've had back there. Well, then, but it seemed like for a while there, it was just like, you just throw somebody back there. But now you got guys like Ezekiel Elliott, guys like Todd Gurley, guys like, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, well, wait a minute. Now are we getting back to the days of the feature back? I don't know, man. We'll find out this year, I guess. We're talking about we had to talk about a running back that was, almost MVP this year.
Yeah.
As a rookie, I mean, so I don't know. It's interesting. Or was he just a once in a lifetime kind of guy? Or is he a product of Dallas's big offensive line and the fact that Dak was doing good too? I think the jury's still out on Elliott, and we'll see how he does. Sophomore year and year 3 and year 4 and stuff like that. Like, is he gonna have the sophomore slump? Is he gonna step up? But let's see how he does. The true test is still out, I think. I agree. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about this week before we go? I don't want to take this show too long.
Yeah, no, we probably need to get out of here. I do want to talk about one thing quickly, is that we're doing a giveaway, Sonny. We're doing a contest here on the Raider Fancast. That's right. One of you lucky winners. You're going to come away with an authentic. This is not a throwback. This is an authentic replica. An authentic replica of a Rich Gannon jersey.
There you go.
Murph. Hey, I was going through a bunch of my old Raider memorabilia, and I have a bunch of jerseys that I don't wear, that never got. I think this Rich Gannon jersey has been in my closet for so long. I think the only time it ever got worn was when the Raiders were in the Super Bowl in 2002, and Uncle Mark wore it. I think that's the last time.
So you're saying it's stretched out a bit? No, just kidding.
He was svelte, and it's a double X. So, but yeah. So, anyways, we're gonna give away this jersey. So we're gonna give it away, and it's real simple. It was real simple. All you gotta do is let us know that you rated and or reviewed the show on iTunes. Sorry, Android users. If there was a good way for Google to rate or review the show, we'd have you involved in on it too. But rate or review the show on iTunes. It's real simple. You go on there, click 5 stars, tell us what you like about the show, or don't. But I'm assuming that you like us if you're listening to us. Go on there and do it, and then hit us up on Twitter. It's at the Degos, TheDegos. Hit us up at the Degos. You could just look up Raiders Fancast, and you can find us that way. Find us on Facebook. It's Raiders Fancast on Facebook, and just let us know that you did it. And we're just going to pick somebody at random. And it's a Rich Gannon number 12 jersey. So I don't know. We'll let it go for 12 days or I don't know. What do you think, Sonny? How long should we let it go for?
Is it stitched?
No, it's not. It's just a regular old replica plastic jersey, but it's old. It's a Reebok jersey from back in the day. So
nice.
It's like, yeah.
I say we do the whole month of March.
All right. So for the month of March, so get on there, rate us, review us, and just let us know. You can tweet at us directly. We're all over social media.
You can Facebook message us as well.
Yes, Facebook message us. Yeah, however you want to contact us. Heck, you could email us. What's our email address, Sonny?
The Dego Raiders at gmail.com.
There you go. The DEGO Raiders at gmail.com. So just let us know that you did it, and we'll pick somebody at random, and I'll mail you the jersey.
And yes, we are bribing you to rate us on iTunes.
Heck yeah, man.
There's no shame in our game.
No, listen. We love all of you, and thank you again for listening to the show. Our numbers are fantastic, so thank you so much for that. But to crawl up the iTunes boards, as I'm sure a lot of you listen to podcasts know, you need rates and you need subscribers, and reviews. So rate us, review us, and let us know. And heck, if you got something critical to say, let it out there, man. Let us know what we need to do better on the show.
Basically, if Rich Gannon was your boy, go to iTunes and rate us. Now, Murph.
He was the last quarterback to take us to the Super Bowl, by the way.
Don't you have other jerseys, too, we're going to give away maybe in the upcoming months as well?
I do. I actually sold my Bo.
Don't.
Oh, okay. Well, Bo is sold. Bo is off the table. I got a killer offer for Bo on eBay, and I let Bo go. But yes, there are some others.
Money's more valuable to you than some iTunes reviews, is what you're saying.
I don't know. It depends on how many iTunes reviews you get. We are Sicilian. We can make a deal.
Because iTunes reviews could lead to money for us in the future as well.
That's right. You never know what goes on around here.
We could get some sponsors.
You could give me somebody to advertise.
Anyway, here's the deal you can't refuse. Go to iTunes, like us, rate us, review us. We don't give us a 1-star. Give us some constructive criticism. We don't care. And we'll put your name in the hat for the jersey giveaway. Contact us, Facebook or Twitter or email the Dego. People even use email anymore. The Dego Raiders at gmail.com. Murph, I think it's an awesome thing you're doing. And we'll start with the Gannon jersey. We'll see how it goes from there. Anything else before we need to go?
No, that's all I got. Thanks again for listening, and go Raiders.
All right. Hey, once again, we appreciate Scott Winter for coming on the show. Carolina Raider on Twitter, at Carolina_Raider. Check his work out on cover32.com, silverandblackpride.com, and lastwordonprofootball.com. We are the Raiders Fancast. We call ourselves the Degos. Check us out on Twitter, at the Degos. On Facebook, we are Raiders Fancast. iTunes, Podcast Addict, Stitcher, the Raiders Fancast. Trying to do a show every other week or so, but as the stadium stuff picks up, maybe we'll do one. Maybe we'll do them every week, or I don't know. Play out, see how it goes. Like us on iTunes. chance to get a Rich Gannon jersey throwback. You can smell like Murph, if that's your thing. And my Uncle
You can
Mark.
smell like Uncle Mark did in 2002, which is raviolis and Coors Light.
We'll take a picture of Uncle Mark and send it to you if that's your thing, and we'll go from there. And until then, the Raiders and we all as Raider Nation continue to.
We're taking over the